Okay, what we're going to show you now is we're going to talk about polishing and adjusting the extractor, and it's fairly a simple operation, but it has a lot to do with reliability of the gun and proper extraction, and also helps when you get the case out of there properly, it helps to properly eject it.
This is a fairly important operation.
Right, it is, and if you have a gunsmith do it or you do it yourself, like I said, even if you have a gunsmith do it, it's usually a relatively inexpensive operation, and it plays a lot in reliability. Even just a stock gun out of the box usually doesn't have enough tension, and if it does, it's probably too much. And some of the angles in the extractor hook and area there are usually not smooth, a lot of edges for the case rim to be jumping on and things like that. So this particular extractor right here is just a stock Colt out of the gun. It's not had anything done to it. As you can see, if you can see that right there, it's not a sharp edge, but it's not very radius, not very round. And the way the extractor works is reviewing the slide this way, this being the muzzle and this being the back. As the extractor sits in the slide, case is in the magazine, and when it goes to feed up underneath there, it's at a slight angle. And it needs to be able to slip up underneath there and come straight in the gun as it goes in the chamber. Now, if you notice right here, again, I said there's no radius there. There's a pretty sharp angle right here. We're going to have to relieve a little bit of that right there. Not a lot, just smooth that down to where that flows, to where that extractor can slip up underneath there rather than snap or stop and not slip up underneath there. It needs to slip up underneath there with some tension and smooth, so it engages the extractor groove in the case rim underneath the hook of the extractor.
You got a little ledge there that you want to
tape down. Right. Here's an extractor that obviously somebody's done too much. You can see the difference here, maybe on a side view, where you got this little bit of material here, and they've taken it almost completely off. And probably the case here was that, obviously they took too much, but you want to take a little bit of that off, because if you don't, once you go over to the vise and start bending the extractor to get some tension on the case, if you don't get rid of that, you're going to bend it and bend it and bend it and never get anything, because that rests on the inside cut of the slide, that channel that extractor fits in, and it's never going to get up to your case. So you need to take a little bit of it off, but obviously not that much.
Show us the side angle of that. Just the other way, the other side. There you go. That'll work. Perfect.
You can see they've taken a considerable amount off there, more than needed. Right. It's almost flat. And so what you want to do is take a little bit of that off. A few swipes of the file, and if you need to, stick it in your, stick it in the slide and see if you can look in there and see if it's catching or not. I'd say to estimate, 5 to 7 thousandths maybe. Sounds like a lot, but it's really not very much. Another thing you're going to want to do is this little flat area right here, up in there. You don't want to change the angle any. All we're going to do, if we do anything to that, is we're going to keep that flat. Keep that 90 degrees in there. You shouldn't need to bring that forward any, and you shouldn't need to alter this way or this way, and you just need to keep it flat and keep that 90 degree right in there, because that case rim has got a 90 degree right on just inside the extractor groove there. So you want to keep that. Another thing we're going to do is, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to radius this slightly so the rim can slide up underneath there over that. We're going to relieve this area right here just ever so slightly. For instance, here's an extractor that's properly adjusted in that area. If you can see that, see this sharper angle here.
There you go.
And you can see we've radiused that a little bit with the file to where that case rim will slide over that.
And these are all factory parts, right?
Right. These here that I have here are factory parts.
You've worked on.
Right. Then also we've relieved this right here a little bit. Again, it's going to give you that clearance when that case is at an angle to sweep up in there. It's going to give it just a little bit so it doesn't have to fight getting up underneath there. And again, you can go too much there. You don't want to do too much. Here's one obviously that's way too much. It really altered that quite a bit. It will probably work. I wouldn't bet on it. If it works now, it will probably give you trouble later. It gets some firing residue caked in there. It might give you a lot of trouble. But whether it does or doesn't, you don't need to do that much. It doesn't need quite that much. Also, they've altered this angle right here. It's kind of at a slant.
Yeah.
Need to keep that right straight across.
More 90 degrees.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Shouldn't be any problem with adjusting a Colt extractor if it, if it looks pretty good and it's not, any bad tool marks or anything like that. But the Wilson extractor here, we like to keep tolerances a little bit tighter on it compared to your stock part. This little area right here, we keep it pretty much. Chances are you won't have to do anything to that. If you do, it will be very little, less than you would have to do to a Colt extractor. Also, we've slightly radiused this in here already. This angle in here should be good and flat, low enough to get plenty of case rim engagement in there. This angle's good and straight across here. The only thing that you would probably have to do is, like we talked about earlier, is relieving that just slightly in there, getting a small square file in there. And what I usually do is when I get one of our Wilson extractors is I'll go ahead and just lightly with the file just take the blue off that and get it slick. I won't take any metal off, I'll just take some blue off and then slightly get in there and relieve that just a little bit.
Let's compare it with the stock
Right.
Colt.
As you can see, it's pretty much the same except for the relief right there for the case to slide up out of the magazine underneath. And then the only other thing you might have to check is hold it up and just look through there. And what you're looking for, we want a little bit of daylight between the top of this hook where it bottoms out inside the extractor groove. If it's touching the case, it's not the proper way to have it. And if it's touching the case, you just take a file and just slightly take a little bit of that down. Don't change the angle any at all. Just take that down, hold it back up. Make sure you get any clearance at all, be fine. But you want the rim of this to set down in that flat groove.
See the stock Colt compared
Okay.
to the Wilson. Compare that now with the Wilson, the stock one without any work done on it.
Okay, it's pretty much, you shouldn't have to take any off the top of here. It's plenty low. In fact, if you did any, you might run into where there's hardly any hook there at all. And if that's the case, you'd want to lower this right here a little bit and keep checking. And lower it flat down. Don't lower it some up here and not enough back here or vice versa. You want to keep it all the way across there without changing the angle, bringing that hook forward. Because if you thin out your hook too much, after a while that hook may just break off. It could, possibly. So you want to keep the thickness there. Keep it flat here. And you can take it down a little bit. That's not going to hurt anything. But again, if you take that down, you might run into the problem where it will start hitting up here too, so keep watching both. It's real important. But again, the Wilson extractor, it's got a lot of that already done. And also notice something here on the back. This Colt's already done, but usually those are square edges right along there, like back here all the way out to the front. Those are already chamfered just to help ease in and out installation of the extractor, putting it in and out, so it doesn't hang up inside the bore.
And that's like that right out of the bag.
Right, right. Both sides are chamfered out there. Okay, one of the first things you need to do before you polish and adjust the extractor is you put it in the slide. We're going to see if it's got any tension at all or if it's got too much. It may have too much. Put the extractor in just loose, nothing in the slide, no firing pin or 80 series safety parts. Slide it in. Just by feeling this one, I can tell it probably doesn't have any. It slides in and out pretty easy. And take your firing pin stop. Get it lined up. Just slide that in there to hold that extractor where it's going to be in the gun when